Wait. Alrighty. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of KBMR Studios. In tonight's episode, we're going to talk about the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, The Rock. But before we get started, I want to just hold a brief moment of silence for the family of Demaryius Thomas, as well as the Denver Broncos organization. And I'm not trying to make this, a tradition every episode. It's just an unfortunate case of timing. Those of you who haven't heard, unfortunately, Demaryius Thomas earlier this week passed away, the young age of 33. It was, very unfortunate to hear the news. He was part of the Denver Broncos Super Bowl championship run during 2016. So if you all just, please, for just a brief moment, like to honor his memory with a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, rocking and rolling.
Was
Let's
this
talk about
episode 3?
number 3. Yep.
Yeah, number 3.
Yeah, it feels like we've done a billion, but it's still a very young series. We got to get a little more mileage. We
Yeah.
still got that still got like a spreadsheet of all the things we want to talk about. So I don't know what we're going to talk about next episode. I guess we'll decide that on the fly as this episode
We
gets
gotta
toward the
mix
end.
it up. We gotta mix it up.
Yeah, so it's yeah, I know the last episode we were talking about 90s hockey and like all the uh all the fun it brought and how much ESPN sucks as like commentators. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I like having access to more games. That's awesome. But
Oh man.
guys, get your shit together. Like there was one Devils game for like 2 minutes straight. They were saying nothing. Like I felt like I was watching Joe Buck call the game.
Was Troy Aikman on the side in the
Yeah.
background?
Oh, he just goes up there like a basketball player. He sounds like, like a spaceman floating through the galaxy.
And you can obviously tell like what team he's rooting for too to win the game.
Of course, is the boys or
Yeah.
Big D, whatever the hell they call them nowadays.
Yeah.
I
That's
just scared
that's
my.
that go ahead.
No, I was saying I was chewing a piece of popcorn. I scared my dog.
Oh man. No, so to talk about The Rock, I think like you brought this up one time that the Attitude Era had phases. Like there's
Hmm.
all these phases of the Attitude Era, but what a lot of people don't know is I think each phase had a character that made that phase or the company, the brand itself
Right.
kind of like come together and make it such an iconic brand. Like you need
Hmm.
someone to take you from something and bring it to some. And I'm not saying before The Rock there wasn't any people. You had Hulk Hogan, you had all these guys that made wrestling what it is today. But I felt like the Attitude Era was like getting over the mountain or getting to the Denali to say like, hey, now we're a company where like everyone knows where we are. And I felt like that character brought, and not just him. I mean, we'll talk about Stone Cold in another episode. That's one of my favorite characters, and not because
100%.
he smashed beers and drank beers, but
Of
yeah,
course.
right. People are like, oh, I like the Stone Cold because he drank tons of beers, this, that, and the other, X, Y, and Z. But I felt like there was always that character who like you looked up to, like an icon, a figure, something that was, you know, trying to bring you in to either watch it or go to it. Um, I was
100%.
lucky enough that I got to see the Rock perform. It wasn't at a live event. It was like one of their road shows.
House show. Yeah.
Um, right. Still, again, like people say, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment.
Hmm.
But and then a lot of people don't know too is that he came from a little bit of a background of wrestling. He didn't start out wrestling. He was into football. Obviously, we know his football career. Won a
Yeah.
championship with the Miami Hurricanes. I believe it was like
Yep.
'99. And then obviously got undrafted, got cut, then went to the Canadian
Ca-
Football League, got cut, and then started out. What was it? 96 I
something,
think
yeah, like 95 days.
yes,
He's like,
yeah,
do you know how much you have to suck at football to get cut by the Canadian League? And now look at him today. Like we'll get to this a little bit more later on, but he was trying to, for a little bit, I think they were trying to merge the CFL with the new relaunch of the XFL. But he came into the business. Yeah, I think you're right. Like 95, I think it was like Rocky Maivia. Like they tried to make him this like babyface character, but the fans hated it. Like I think some fans, they were chanting "Die Rocky Die," which in today's world that's like, or like that's like in ECW when they chanted "You fucked up" whenever a guy botched a move. Like that's for WWE standards where everything was like PG family friendly before the Attitude Era. That was like holy shit. Like did they actually say that? It
no,
was crazy. But he a lot of people say like this guy is entitled. He was like the golden boy, and really I don't. Like I kind of agree with the interview that Roman Reigns did a while ago that like The Rock is part of like one of, if not the biggest and most accomplished bloodlines in pro wrestling history. Like the Samoans guys, like Roman Reigns, Rikishi, remember Jamal and Rosie, like Umaga, like
yeah,
they come from that like very accomplished bloodline. They've always been like had a prominent like spot on camera. And with The Rock, I felt like, and also like you were saying before, like there was like I feel like with the Attitude Era, like there it was so wide open. Like from any minute, any of the guys in the mid card could have been like a main eventer. Like it
yeah,
wasn't like Stone Cold was the flagship guy. Like of course during like the late '97 into early '98, but like The Rock wasn't too far behind. DX was like, as much as they were like villains, like they were getting popular because of like their crude antics. Sorry, I had a burp. That's why I paused for a minute. But it's like anybody could almost be like a main eventer. Like think of guys like Ahmed Johnson or like like Hardcore Holly. It's like these are guys like waiting to break through that glass ceiling, and I felt like they got screen time and really good opportunities. Whereas nowadays it's like you have like your two or three main event guys, and then
yeah. That's
screw the
it.
rest. Like if they get played on one of the secondary shows like Superstars or main event or something, they're lucky. But The Rock was like while Austin was obviously the big guy that everybody loved, and he was like that like rebellious guy, like anti-authority type of dude that everybody like bought into that shit like crazy. The Rock was the perfect villain for him. Like he like dressed like a movie star before he even became an actual movie star. And it's not the first time in the seeing him in movies, that's not the first time he was familiar with like non-wrestling like cameras and viewership. He's made some appearances on SNL. Like did Austin ever appear on SNL? I think he might have, maybe Mad TV. I don't know if that's still around, but like
Probably, yeah.
with The Rock, he was on camera in SNL. And when, especially in the like 2000, like that year when Austin was out with because he re-aggravated his neck injury, like that was like the year of The Rock. And that's when Triple H became like really stepped up huge, like before the days of Monday Night Raw, RAHHH,
Right.
Reign of Terror. That's gonna, ladies and gentlemen, that'll of course be covered in another episode too. But yeah, The Rock he was so popular. He was the people's champion. Like he really lived by that role. Like he became
do
so close to that character. It was like they were one and the same.
Do you feel that there was a match or a moment that made The Rock what he is today? Because I don't see it that like you said, there was more matches in my opinion in the past 10 years that highlighted a character, whereas The Rock, it wasn't necessarily a match. It was more of like, hey, this is actually like a character that's trying to make this brand. And I'm not saying that characters today like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, John Cena, whatever you want to call it, I'm not saying that they had that, but I want to know, was The Rock the person that like not just did it all, but was there a match that we can say, hey, The Rock became The Rock?
I think I don't know, because there's so many. Like I don't know if he did necessarily did it in one shot or was like progressively over time. Like he was in the corporation stable, but like with his promos and like his like delivery and just all that charisma, like people started cheering him. I think
Yeah,
one moment for me was at the Owen Hart tribute show when he gave like this really heartfelt speech. He's like, Owen, this is your night, and damn it, The Rock, love you like no other. I feel like that was like a good starting point for his like transition into like being The Rock, like instead of just being The Rock. Like I don't know if like moments. I think this was the I think actually I take that back. There is one segment. I don't know if you remember the "This Is Your Life." It was like one of the highest rated segments ever, where like Mick Foley, I guess, I think they threw like as like a celebration for The Rock. I think they brought like some of his old like school teachers and stuff in the ring. It was like this big
Mhm.
celebration. You get a chance to look it up, but like I feel like that's one of the moments that really, put him on the map and really like I feel like, and honestly, dude, like, you know, the the injury to Austin is what really gave him that opportunity. It's like makes you wonder, like, if Austin was still competing at that level and he wasn't injured, like, would The Rock still have had that like eventual opportunity? And of course, the Rock Hogan match at WrestleMania 18, that was,
Yeah.
I felt like that was kind of a passing of the torch, even though that was around the time when The Rock started to begin his transition over to Hollywood.
Yeah. I also felt too that like The Rock didn't have any like crazy insane like there was no TLC, there was no
No,
like the matches that he was in, it was just it made it something bigger than already what it was. Like you didn't need something to make it already bigger than what you had. Like if he was facing someone that kind of made people turn on the TV and say, "Hey, I want to watch The Rock." Whereas today, I kind of feel like it's got to be more of like a built storyline. I mean, him
hmm
and Austin had a nice built storyline, but again, they weren't in like these crazed matches where, the TLC or ladder
no,
match, things like that. He didn't need it. The point is, every match, in my opinion, that he was in, it was kind of like a moment. Like I said before, you're climbing the mountain. It was kind of something that people were like, "Hey, I'm going to turn on the TV," or "Hey, I'm going to go to WrestleMania and watch it." Like before we started the podcast, I was watching The Rock versus Brock, SummerSlam, and just like you said, people knew that obviously he was leaving. However, it was still like an iconic moment, you
yeah,
know?
because it like they told the story, like he had, and actually, I think there was one match. I think it was one SummerSlam. He and Triple H. I think they fought over the Intercontinental title in a ladder match. But like, you don't see guys like him or like Austin doing that stuff, or even Undertaker. You rarely see them getting like one of those like kind of specialty matches. Like you might see him in like hell. Like other than Armageddon, like how many times was The Rock in like Hell in the Cell? Maybe a
Yeah,
cage match here or there, but like I
yeah.
think that was his only appearance inside the cell. But
Elimination Chamber wasn't even a thing.
no, it was not. And
Did you know how that started? Real quick, sorry to get off topic. It was a bunch of like mechanics who worked for the WWE who had this idea of making this. There's something I gotta watch it. I haven't watched it yet on Peacock about how the Elimination Chamber started and
it
how
was a
they built
combination.
it.
Yeah, because I remember it was like a combination of Survivor Series, like the elimination element, then War Games. I don't know if you ever heard like the original WCW War Games where they had like multiple rings side by side and like multiple cages, and then Royal Rumble, like after a set interval of time, like another person enters. And I think they were talking about, I think I forget where I saw the clip, but like they said it was crafted to be a steel structure. Like it was not designed to give. So like when you see guys get like slammed on it, it's not designed to like for them to take
No,
the fall. Like it's designed to fuck them up. Like really.
yeah, yeah. That and I kind of like how Elimination Chamber has around the ring, like that mat part, and then it's like more of a what do you call it? The cage itself
The
designed in
po-
a way. Yeah,
yeah, it's
like the
like
pods and stuff.
the pods on the side, and then yeah, the floor is like designed at ring level. It was like
Yeah,
I think they said it's stored at like some dock in like the Newark, New Jersey area. I
that's
thought I heard
crazy.
I thought I heard that, but like seeing that suspended above the ring, like how do you have a structure to hold that shit up? But they couldn't hold Owen Hart up before tragedy struck. Like I don't, and I'm sorry, folks, that's a really insensitive comparison. That it's shitty, but like it
No,
just makes you wonder where some of their where some of their money goes. Now,
yeah,
probably gonna
right.
get canceled for that. So if
No,
nah,
no, but no. I mean, listen. I think the biggest thing is even when The Rock came back 3 times or twice, I think it was, when he went to Hollywood and came back. There were still those iconic moments, and a lot of perfect example. A lot of people don't know that when he faced John Cena, he hurt himself
yeah,
in the
towards
match.
the second match, I think, right?
I'm not sure what it
He tore
was.
he tore like an abdominal muscle or something like that.
Yeah, something in his leg, and he said that he was just so like energized to keep moving that it totally like blew his mind that he hurt himself, which is the craziest thing in my opinion.
And that's what wrestlers are trained to do. Like Undertaker, Mankind, the Hell in a Cell. Like I think Undertaker had a broken ankle, and you can see him hobbling a bit, but like he's like, I think in a magazine interview with WWE magazine years ago, he's like, how can I open my mouth over a fucking broken ankle? I mean, I would
Yeah.
be like writhing in pain, but like, I mean, if you go down the list of like Taker's injuries, he'll tell you countless shit that's happened
I
to him.
mean,
Like,
I saw Seth Rollins, what do you call it, kick
is
John Cena in the face and give him a broken nose.
yeah, and he finished that match. Yeah, then even when Triple H tore his quads, you'll see that he even finished that match, even though like it was yeah, it was one with when him and Austin were defending the tag titles against Benoit and Jericho, like, and then and to make matters even crazier, like Triple H let Jericho put him in the walls of Jericho, which, as you know, puts a big strain on like the legs and quadriceps, and he
Yeah.
still finished the match. It's like, wow.
Yeah, if there's something like that, it's definitely hard to come by. You know what's crazy too? A lot of people don't know when it comes to The Rock, man, like merchandise. I remember my first ever WWE thing that I ever got. It was one of the non-live events that I was telling you about. I got one of those old school Rocky pictures, like
Hmm.
photos,
Right.
and it was on like the picture frame. It's this is how we're going back. This is like late '90s.
Mhm.
The picture itself was glued on to a piece of cardboard in a picture frame,
Hmm.
and it was like $5, $6 or $5 for this picture frame that looked like it was from like the dollar store.
Right.
That's
Remember
how
they?
that's how crazy.
I think my one of my favorite things I had was I used to have like the red fist of the Undertaker, the dead man walking, and then the foam thumbs of RVD.
Yeah,
Actually, I got when I saw him, yeah, I saw him live, and actually he went around the ring, like gave people like a high five, and he hit the foam thing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not watching this shit. I can't get an autograph, but I can get Van Damme sweat. And this is before his stoner days.
yeah. Did the Rock? Here's a question: Did the Rock ever go overseas and do anything for? I think there was one live event he did on SmackDown. I'm not 100% sure where he went overseas and did like a thing for the troops.
I don't think so. I think the only overseas thing that comes to mind was well, I guess if you can, I don't know if you ever heard of the pay-per-views Insurrection, Rebellion, and then they did one Global Warning. There's like those like overseas like UK exclusive pay-per-views.
Yeah,
Like I know he did those. There was I think it was just before a little bit before his match with Brock at SummerSlam. It was Global Warning. It was him, Triple H, and Brock in like a triple threat match for the undisputed title. And of course, Brock can't get pinned, so Triple H and I don't care because Triple H has won enough matches in his career and he never needed.
yeah.
He took the fall. The Rock beat him like I think 2001. The Rock was was like one of my favorite guys because he was like the I feel like that's when if there was any moment in time when he was like more popular than Steve Austin, I feel like that was it. Even like 2000 also because obviously easier there because Austin wasn't around, but even when him and Austin were there at the same time, their WrestleMania match together. The biggest thing I hated about that was the finish that Austin became a villain. Like if he beat The Rock cleanly, 1, 2, 3, fine. But
I mean,
Austin, when they tried
go
to
ahead.
make Austin a villain, it blew up in their faces because everybody wanted to cheer for him. It was like so forced, and like they didn't abandon it when they should have.
Yeah. To me, I thought that The Rock's promos were the best. Like, and especially his promos with Austin. I don't know how they did it. I mean, I remember the one I've seen this video probably 1,000 times where he takes the camera from the cameraman and he's videotaping Stone Cold and him laying on the table. He's like, "Look at this trailer park trash."
And he hits him with his. Yeah, that's right. And then Austin, like, you get like a POV video of like the stunner. That was I think that was WrestleMania 15, 1999, I think.
Yeah. You know what? You know what's funny too? I think it's hilarious when other wrestlers do their own move on other guys,
Mhm.
like Seth Rollins doing the pedigree on somebody, or Kevin Owens doing the stunner. I think it's hilarious every time someone does it.
But you know why Seth Rollins had to do the pedigree, right?
No.
Because at the time,
Hogan? You all
sorry, I
right?
was choking. Yeah, I was choking on a popcorn kernel shell. Sorry, but the reason they had Seth Rollins doing the pedigree was because they thought, I guess, the name Curb Stomp was too violent, obviously, but he does now. They call it the Stomp.
The stomp, yeah.
Come on, man. Who gives a
Well,
fuck?
that's like John Cena. Remember the FU to the AA?
And then
Like all
STFU to the STF.
yeah, like I don't get it. I really don't.
This
Like
is PG.
yeah, the phrases, I get it. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, I started to get off topic. I know we're talking about phrases and things like this. Did you see a thing? I saw it on Google that Scotty Too Hottie is coming back to wrestling.
No, I did not.
Yeah,
That's
I read this. I don't know if it's true. Don't quote me or anything like that. I don't know if it's
hmm
true, but he's from my hometown, Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Scotty Too Hottie.
New host is a local. You remember Diamond Dallas Page? He's from Point Pleasant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't he,
I think
again, not to get off top. Did he go into the porn industry?
no, he's doing yoga.
All right, I could have swore someone told me he was going into the porn industry. Just
Oh my god.
saying, I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. You got to make your money somehow.
Yeah. Desperate times, desperate measures.
Oh man. But now you know what's crazy too. Let's talk about this. I know this is a weird subject too, right? The Rock, the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Like I felt like every single episode, no matter where you are, it was the sunglasses. Like just go in, like I'm scrolling through YouTube right now, and every single video has got him wearing a different pair of sunglasses.
Yeah. I wonder what brand they were. If they were like Ray-Bans, I feel like they had to be something high end. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Whoa, whoa. You
Yeah.
all right up there?
Yeah, I burped. That's all. Got a lot of bubbles in my stomach, even though I didn't drink. Well, actually, I did drink soda today, but and honestly, you know how I always get my hair like a buzz cut?
Yeah.
That was actually inspired by The Rock in 2003 when he came back as like that
Explain
asshole.
that.
Like, all right, so some of you probably I'm sure you remember. This is when The Rock came back as like that asshole Hollywood tool bag. This is like when he was building up his way to the WrestleMania match with Austin, which to this day stands as Austin's final match as an active wrestler. And you'll see like he gets like that like really dark, like he wasn't bald, but it was like a really like serious like buzz cut. I think they call it like peach fuzz or something.
Right.
When I saw that, I'm like, I want to do that because I think I had like one of those like dorky like bowl cuts at the time, and I'm like, this has got to go. And nowadays, I rock that buzz cut because I just gave it like I really took a gamble. I was like, holy crap, nice haircut. I'm like, here we go. So Dwayne Johnson, thank you so much for inspiring my haircut. But yeah, that was. But yeah, look up a picture of him real quick. The Rock 2003, and I don't know if you I looked at some interviews later in time, so it's in the words of Scott Steiner, you got a 50-50 chance of it being true or false. Um, I think you'll see at the end of that match when he hits the third rock bottom and pins Austin, he sits up, goes over to Austin. I think what they say he said to him was like, "I love you so much, thank you for everything," because Austin was a big influence on The Rock, throughout his career, even up until the point when Austin's had that shocking walkout from the company. The Rock was, just as over with the fans as Austin was, The Rock was on the rise. Fans were getting behind him; they were cheering for him, even though he was that guy that would just get under your skin like crazy. He people started like catching on. They're like, this guy is gonna carry the company next, and then he won Royal Rumble. I forget if he won King of the Ring ever, but that's I feel like that kind of got watered down over the years. They never really, you know, picked up and ran with it the way that they should have. But
That's one thing I will say this that I dislike about just wrestling in general and not just with the WWE, like any brand that's out there is I hate when you kind of know it's that moment where that person is kind of getting like pushed off the show. You kind of
Mhm.
know that there's a point where eventually, and everyone knows that. I mean, it took the Undertaker what 4 or 5 matches to know like, hey, this is it. Like I can't keep doing this because my body's not going to take it. And all respects to him, I keep saying it over and over. Remember that last match between him and HBK? I thought that was like the final pinnacle of him saying like, hey, this is it. And then obviously he came back. Him and the Cena match was just horrible, but the point I'm trying to make is I feel like there's just always a point in time where the WWE kind of like pushes people, off to the side to basically say like, all right, this is it, they're done, you know?
I kind of felt that way with like, there's so many stars that coming on. Like, this is an awesome guy. He's going to be like, we can make him into a superstar. Like, look how many
Right,
amazingly talented people are there today. Like Cesaro, Kevin Owens,
right,
um, and even before he parted ways with the company, Ryback. Like,
yeah,
I feel like you always gotta have that like next like big star, like combat your one big star. Like the way I felt with like in the modern times, like John Cena versus CM Punk. That was like rocking Austin because even though CM Punk's like, he's straight edge, he's drug free, he still has like that, rebellious kind of dude. Like I don't drink, I don't do drugs, but I'm also anti-authority. And Cena, you know, all due respect to Cena, like he has that charisma like The Rock did. He could totally be like a lot of people I know call him like, the poster boy, like Vince's golden boy or whatever you want to do, that he's like modern day Hulk Hogan. He took the hand away from his ear and put it in front of his face or whatever. But like that was like you have lightning in a bottle, and when you have the opportunity to capture it, you just throw it away. Like the John Cena CM Punk match at in Chicago at Money in the Bank 2011. That was one of the few like 5-star matches from Wrestling Observer. I don't give a fuck what they have to say because they've never stepped into a ring. But like that's when you make CM Punk the number 2 superstar. But you put
right.
him to the side to bring back The Rock for one match for like I miss the days when like in WrestleMania it didn't matter how big of a name you were, the champion goes on last. I mean, given Rock Hogan was an amazing match, but that wasn't for the championship.
Well,
So
do you
it
feel
shouldn't have been on last anyway.
do you feel that it's because of the ratings? Like, have you noticed? Think
Oh
about
yeah.
this. Think about this. It's not even in the past 10, maybe 20 years. Every couple years, the WWE tries to bring, or not even that. You can even say Impact Wrestling too. They try to bring back a superstar to just boost the ratings. To say oh, we brought back John Cena. It's like, okay, I haven't seen him in like 6 years. Like I'm lost as to where you're trying to go with this. And then you give him a title match, like the title match against Roman Reigns. Like that was horrible. That was horrible. Like, okay, if you're gonna bring The Rock back or even Brock Lesnar, like don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Brock Lesnar fan. But if you're gonna bring them back, don't make it to like, hey, I'm just bringing it back just to boost the morale, or oh, I'm boosting the ratings for a couple months because we've been down lately. It's like no, because fans catch on to that, just like you said. Fans catch on to these ridiculous storylines that you try to do, and then they wonder, they're like, oh well, this is why I stopped watching wrestling, is because you brought so and so back. You're trying to make them a title match, but they really want to see some, face somebody else, you know?
Yeah, and maybe your ratings wouldn't be down if you didn't book guys like shit. Like case in point, Braun Strowman. Like you let him walk for like nothing, or no, you released him because you felt he was past his prime. Because when he was in his prime, you booked him like shit.
Right, right.
You booked him like fucking shit. I'm sorry, and unfortunately, guys, this is an audio only recording, so you won't be able to see what happened. But basically, I pulled like a Brian Pillman. I grabbed the camera, acting like crazy and unhinged, like talking directly.
Mm,
But it's like, okay, you're gonna pop a pay-per-view buy rate, like, and that undermines the guys that are in that locker room day in and day out, busting their asses just for
mhm.
an opportunity to be featured in, a fucking commercial of all things, if anything. But you're gonna,
Just to make a roster spot, you know?
yeah, like, The Rock, as much as I love him to death, he is not there anymore. He chose to go the path of Hollywood, and that's fine. But if that's where you want to be, that's where you got to stay. Maybe, make a guest appearance here or there, but don't, you know, strip, like basically come back, beat CM Punk for the title. Like,
Yeah.
one of the scenarios that they talked about was like, if it would be a triple threat match, like Cena, Punk, and The Rock. And Cena even talked about it on the Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling podcast, like, even I'm like, fuck it, have like elimination style, like have me eliminated first, and I would have been fine with that because it's like, hey, I was in the main event of WrestleMania, and CM
Yeah.
Punk, you'll see he deems his WWE career as a failure because he never wrestled in the final match at WrestleMania, and it's
That's
like,
like that's like fill-ins,
yeah, it's
you
like,
know?
oh, there's all these, you got 4 main event matchups. No, there's one main event, and it's the final match of the night.
Right, right.
Like, I
Like
don't. You can
like
have main event superstar in the second last match. That's not the main event. The final
right,
fucking match is the main event.
right. I don't know. I just feel like those big matches too. Like even the Rock and Stone Cold when they faced each other, you didn't need a fill-in. You didn't need some guy to come in and be like, "Oh, hey, well, by the way, we're gonna make it a triple threat, or we're gonna make it a elimination chamber." And you see so and so walking down the ramp, and people are like, "Why is this person in the match?" And then just like you said, I also feel like now, compared to back then when the Rock was wrestling. I also felt like there was a somebody that had to be there to make the match. Like someone
Right.
had to. Oh, well, we need so and so in the match to make it. It's like no, not with The Rock. Like you don't need a person in there, just a random to figure out like what's going on. Like it doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah, like Rock Hogan, like easily that match. If that had gone on last, I think it probably would have been a better decision. But I respect that they didn't put on last because neither man is champion or was champion at the time. Like,
Right.
respect the tradition of going on last. Like, and while Rock Hogan was not like a technical masterpiece, they're not the greatest wrestlers, but it wasn't about that. It was like generations colliding. That match wasn't supposed to feature The Rock originally.
No.
Originally, it was supposed to be Austin Hogan, but in different interviews over time, Austin's like, I don't think it would have been that good of a match. It's one of those things that looks good on paper, but I call bullshit on that because I think a lot of it was like a backstage political power struggle. Like Austin didn't want to lose to Hogan, Hogan didn't want to lose to Austin, and it's easy to believe, that what Hogan was trying to do because if you watch different videos and interviews, like a lot of people talk about how like Hulk Hogan had a creative control card. So basically he could decide anything he wanted to. If he didn't like a story, nope, this doesn't work for me, brother. I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't like that.
no, because it like undermines, people that are trying to like climb their way to the top. Like even in WCW, like how many the biggest reason they failed, I think, was because, they didn't listen to their mid card. Like you had so many guys in there, like, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, people trying to like climb through the ranks, to, like, really put their name on the map. And all those superstars, they had amazing success in WWE, all became world champions. Even
Yeah.
Chavo Guerrero too. I think he won the ECW world title. I mean, I know people laugh at ECW like it's a joke, but that's a world title is a world title at this point. Like all 6 guys, and it's another thing we'll talk about after is the SmackDown 6 in a future episode. But
Well, what do you call it?
we're
A lot of people still forget that The Rock was a Triple Crown winner.
yeah, he
You know,
yeah, and
listen,
he's
you
always
good?
been
Not
loyal
good.
to Vince. Like I think he definitely belongs. Like if WWE does like a Mount Rushmore, I definitely think he belongs in there. Like
Yeah.
I would say, if I mean, it's hard to because you got a lot of good names in the modern day. It's like probably to be like a Hogan, Steve Austin, The Rock, Undertaker. But maybe if you take out like Hogan, but it's hard because you got as much as people hate him, you got to put John Cena in there too. As
I still
much as
can't
people
see him.
never could. Well, actually, that works. Just keep him out, and we'll just say like, oh, Cena's there, just hidden.
You know what made me upset about that? Sorry to get off topic about the
Go
whole
ahead.
Cena thing. I get that you want to go to Hollywood, but you did it the wrong way. You did because here's the way I look at it. The Rock had his high point, and then he kind of like phased in, like, okay, I want to go to Hollywood, this, that, and the other. Me, I felt like Cena just dropped it and said, "All right, I'm going to Hollywood." He's not on the storyline anymore, and then boom, you all of a sudden you just show up like years later. It's like, dude, well, like, what happened? Like, where was the point where we just said, oh, okay, enough's enough, we're not going to do this anymore? Or was it, oh, I got to come back because I got to show people that I'm still wrestling? I mean, the Rock did the same thing, meaning like obviously the Rock went into acting, but he did it the correct way. He kind of said like, all right, this is what I want to do. he sat down with it, whereas Cena was just like, "Oh, hey, I'm moving on," you know?
Yeah, at least like with The Rock, he like transitioned. Like, have you ever seen his movie The Rundown? Actually, I like that one. That was like one of
No.
his first people. I don't really have much of a care much for stuff like the Scorpion King. I think for me, his top movies that he were in, um, what's it called, The Rundown. Walking Tall was all right. I thought that was, it's
That's
kind of
pretty
just
good,
like that
yeah.
badass guy, like he walks into a bar and beats the shit out of everyone. Um, Gridiron Gang, I really liked. I feel like that's one of his underrated flicks. Mm, Game Plan was okay.
Fast 5 was
Yes,
a good one. Fast
that
5.
was that was a good one featuring him. Hobbs and Shaw. If you get a chance, you got to check that one out.
I haven't seen that one yet.
That's it's kind of it's actually it's not directly related to the Fast and Furious. I know it's like a spin-off of like one of the villain characters, one of the hero characters, but if you get a chance, definitely check out Hobbs and Shaw. It's kind of like an action comedy, like the way that like a hero and a villain have to team up just to like um I can honestly picture him of like Mortal Kombat, like the new Mortal Kombat movie. Like I feel like he could have played Jax easily. He has like the physique. He just has, as Vince McMahon says, the look. Yeah.
That's all right. Every time when The Rock came back from Hollywood, he would say, "Finally, The Rock has." You know what that reminded me of when he did that and he stood in the middle of the ring? Remember Ken Kennedy? The mic would come down
Yep.
from the top, and he was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, hailing in from Green Bay, Wisconsin," and he was
Out in
chewing
this.
his gum. He would always be like,
Yep.
"Ken Kennedy," and then he would walk over to the rope with the mic, and he'd be like, "Kennedy."
That was great. And that's another example of another good star that was, that could have made it big. But I think
Oh,
he had.
I was don't even get me started. I was so pissed, man, when he left wrestling, Ken, and like he was in some nice matches, but then you could tell like towards the end, like, come on, him and MVP versus the Kane and Undertaker on SmackDown, just so that they can throw bodies. It's like, come on, really?
But you know why he was let go, right?
No.
Well, I know he had like a couple wellness policy violations, and then there was this 10-man tag match, and you'll see he does like a suplex on Randy Orton, drops him square on his head. And that's a plywood ring. It doesn't give that much. It's like I think a little bit of foam, but like mostly plywood. You get a chance, just like you'll see Randy Orton sit up and like take a real life swing at him and try to hit him in the head because you get a chance to look up Ken Kennedy botch. But I think it was a combination of things. Like I know he had and you're not necessarily releasing him for his injuries, but like the reason why he gave up his Money in the Bank contract was because he had like I think he had like a tear in his back, and it was not as bad as they projected it was. So they took it off of him, but then he ended up coming back. It's like he could have been world champion, even if just briefly. But like,
That's the first thing that pops up when you type that into YouTube. Ken Kennedy. It says Ken Kennedy suplex.
yeah, like have you watched
The
the
real
video?
reason. I'm about
Have
to
you?
right now.
Yeah, check it out.
Oh yeah.
You'll watch Randy. He gets so pissing.
Oh
He was
man.
yeah, apparently. And then also too, remember when Cena tore his pec?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you'll see the way he took the move. I guess it wrapped Cena's like arm like behind his body. So that's how Cena tore his like pectoral muscle off the bone. But that's another example of like resiliency. Like, he finished the match with a torn pectoral. And then he's like, oh, he's gonna be out for almost a year, and then comes back in 4 months to win the Royal Rumble. Don't mind me, I'm just putting my hoodie on. It's getting a little chilly. And also,
No.
viewers, just so you know, to break the fourth wall real quick. Today I had my goddamn booster, and I've been feeling chills, sweats, and other bullshit for like the last like.
Stun gun.
It seriously feels like this is
Yeah.
going on almost 18 hours now. So hopefully I recuperate in
Listen,
time for my shift tomorrow. So we'll see.
when I got my booster, I thought I was on cloud nine. I felt like I was so high. I was in like
Uh,
a
excuse
whole
me.
nother
Dimension.
realm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. It like last night I just felt like my arm was a little bit sore. I'm like, oh, this won't be so bad. I
Yeah.
think honestly, I think I felt worse when I did the one shot J&J the next day. It was similar pattern. I woke up at like 1:32 in the morning, and I'm like, holy fuck. I was like putting my like my hands in like Like I took my like arms out of the sleeves and like put it in my shirt like a fucking turtle shell, trying to stay warm. Wasn't happening. And then I
Yeah.
was a nice one. I heard that
What?
you ripped ass, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I swear.
Uh,
No.
oh, okay. Oh, I thought I heard a noise, but I digress. But I'm feeling a little bit better now, so hopefully we're trending in that direction. Yeah,
Listen, if I go ahead.
no, saying the Rock is, not to get, because I know we've been getting off topic a lot this whole episode,
Sorry.
and viewers at home, sorry, that's gonna happen a lot because there's
There's so
the,
much to
the
talk about.
yeah, but the issue is Kevin and I decided that we have to break stuff up into different topics because if we talk about everything we want to talk about, it's going to be done in like one or two videos and we'll have no content. So we're divvying
Yeah.
it up just so we have shit to talk about. But The Rock is, I think he's, withstood the test of time. I felt like, where there's Hulk Hogan versus Andre, Rock versus Austin, Cena versus CM Punk. Like there's always those like, you need, like the Joker needs the Batman. Like you need one person to like rival the other, or
I would
Spider-Man versus
agree.
Green Goblin, whatever you need. Like The Rock was the perfect foil for the Austin, but you know, even as a hero, he was good. Like, him versus Triple H, they had a good series in the summer of like the spring to summer of 2000. Like they headlined like a bunch of pay-per-views together. And even in I think SummerSlam 2000, he main evented against Chris Benoit. And even though Chris Benoit was, even like he was in like the mid card status at the time, like, he'd been working his ass off in WCW, that he was like deserving to break into that spot. But
Yeah.
WCW wanted to pay like the older main eventers who had been, were well past their time, that could have not necessarily retired, but maybe got into like, a mentorship role. Like, okay, hey, like let's say you got a guy like Arn Anderson, big name, but he's not in the title picture right now. Maybe while he's not in the title picture, assign him one of the younger guys that are like a mid carder so we can like mentor them to get them ready for the main event. Like do like a rotation. That was like we'll talk about the Arn Anderson Sid Vicious incident in another video, but
Listen, as we're wrapping this up, I just what you said word for word. I feel like that's the number one thing that not just the WWE, wrestling in general is I feel that there's no longer those big matches. I feel like there's no longer a storyline. Like let's think about this. I'm not taking anything away from Roman Reigns, but there was some times where you were just like, okay, like he could have lost the belt there. Why didn't he? Like why did the fans have to see things? I'm not saying that they don't want to see. And again, this is not. I'm not dissing Roman Reigns or anything. I think he's a fantastic wrestler, but there are some times where you're just like, okay, like he should have lost it there, against Edge. And I feel like when The Rock was wrestling, it didn't have to be that way. You knew that you were going to have a match, and the match was going to be something, and it was going to build a good storyline where you didn't have to add all this extra like nonsense, kind of like you see now. And I'll admit, listen, are there times where I'll go maybe a couple months without watching wrestling? Absolutely, but I'm still going to turn it on here and there just to see what's going on, just to see like, hey, where's the storyline today? Okay, like even having Peacock TV, watching the what do you call it? The pay-per-views, it's still something to turn on and watch, but I still think it's missing that hoorah, that big moment,
yeah, like
that
incentive
that
to tune in.
iconic moment where you're like, "Oh, hey, I have to tune in and I watch this. I have to see." And that's what The Rock brought. It's just hard
Yeah,
to come by nowadays, especially with all these new kids coming into, WWE and trying to see where they are and what type of talent that they're trying to bring. But again, for them to do that, it's like, oh hey, we got to put so and so in this match with you or whatever, or we got to release X, Y, and Z, just to make two ends meet. It's like, why did you get rid of that guy? What
yeah. Look how many big main eventers they got rid of like in the last like year and a half alone. Keith Lee, Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt. Like, isn't it crazy to think that like Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman, they main evented SummerSlam like a year and a half ago. They
Yeah,
were the headlining match, and they both
right,
get released. Like
right.
imagine Rock and Austin getting released after WrestleMania 17. Like, what the fuck is that all about? Pardon my language, but like, what the fuck?
Well, is there things that we'll never know? Absolutely. Like if you want to talk about contract things, like I've seen stories, I've heard like even the whole Ryback thing. When
Yep.
Ryback left WWE, he sat down with Paul. You could see this in one of the podcasts or whatever that he was talking about. And then they basically asked him, "Hey, why did you leave?" And he was like, "Well, I don't think $1.3 million was going to do it for what was it, 4 or 5 years or whatever, where he would have gotten paid 300,000. And then not only that, you're just like, okay, well, why doesn't he deserve a main event match? Oh, because people don't like his character. Because there were so many people who won the title where people didn't like their character, and look where they are now. The
Yeah,
Miz
like
being a perfect example.
Jinder
Oh, he
Mahal,
right. Oh, he
Sheamus.
right. They won the title, and then look at their career where it came into. It became so much better, and that's the thing that the WWE is missing right now. It's just like, hey, by the way, you don't need X, Y, and Z to have like a big, huge main event match. It's like just make the storyline what it is, so that we can see that match that people want to see. And then listen, that was what made the Attitude Era so big. The Rock brought that intensity towards the crowd and the people of him fighting, where, again, you had these iconic moments.
Yeah, I felt like in the Attitude Era, like the separation of main event versus mid card, like it was not as farly separated because you felt like, there's so many people who were relevant to the show, whether it was, Austin, The Rock, DX, Ministry of Darkness, the Corporation. Who else is in there? Um, The Brood, Mean Street Posse. Like everybody felt like it seemed like everybody who was there was like somewhat relevant. It was like, relevant to the show. It didn't matter main event, mid carder. It felt like everybody was relevant. Like it didn't seem like, oh well, Roman Reigns is the main eventer, so he gets to go on last. Meanwhile, you got sometimes like the mid carder guys would go on last, and I thought that was cool. But like it felt like, everybody had the chance to like, break that glass ceiling. But once and I even felt that way in the Ruthless Aggression era too.
Yeah, I mean the ruthless aggression era kind of exceeded or made WWE on that fast track and made it become like coming out of the Attitude Era. It needed something, and just like you said, there was a lot of wrestlers who left. The Rock being one of him. But it was nice to see them come back and make a little stent or whatever, or have these like nice matches or iconic moments. But
Hmm.
again, I think that's one thing that I want to see, just wrestling in general, not just with the WWE, but wrestling in general, is like,
Right.
hey, you got to bring back these iconic moments and matches, but do it the right way. Don't bring some guy back, that hasn't wrestled in 5 6 years just because you say, hey, we got to boost the ratings, because that's what it is. It really
Yeah.
is.
And it's not even on pay-per-view anymore. Like it's WWE Network. And if you're not subscribing, you don't see shit.
Well, no, if you got Peacock, you can watch the pay-per-view matches, but nothing else though.
Right. And it's like now you gotta pay for two. Like,
Yeah, no.
yeah, it's like how are these guys getting apparently they get rid of like food, like catered food at some of the events because of budgeting reasons. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's
You know?
like, remember when they got rid of the whole pyro thing? It's like,
Yeah,
why?
that
People miss that. Like, that's what we
yeah,
want to see.
yeah, like I get not having it at like the Thunderdome or the Performance Center, but like, come on. And then remember how the pay-per-view sets, like the entranceway, they used to be all unique. Now it's the same one. Like, ooh, let's just change the color scheme. Like, nobody gives a fuck about that. Like, there's all those creative ones, and that's okay. So I think I thought of like a future topic, um, like pay-per-view theme sets. But now, as we're wrapping up this episode, sorry, The Rock, if you were expecting more direct coverage about you, we promise we'll jump around in other future episodes.
We'll talk
So
about it a lot more.
yeah. So we got to before we wrap this up, we got to decide what the next week's topic will be, or not next week, next episode.
I don't know, man. If you want to talk about pay-per-view matches, we could definitely do that. I think there's
Yeah,
a lot of big pay-per-view matches that you and I have in our heads that we could definitely discuss. I definitely have like a top five,
yeah.
or a top 10, if you want to say that. Definitely a top 10 of pay-per-view matches.
We could definitely talk about that on a future episode. So yeah, well, let's do that. Then I guess, offline, we'll put together some pay-per-view matches. I guess you bring five, I bring five, and it doesn't have to be like any kind of ranking or order, but
No.
like our favorite ones, and then we'll talk about them. I know that I could already tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, just a brief spoiler: the HBK Undertaker WrestleMania 25 will definitely be there. That for me is easily arguably the best match in WrestleMania history.
The TLC match. What
Yep,
was it?
Hardy's,
Hardys,
Edge
and
and Christian.
Edge and Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another good one. The first Elimination Chamber match was good.
Oh,
Um,
by the way, speaking of that, I'm only on number 3 of the best of Elimination Chamber. That's on Peacock TV. The first 2 were good, but this is the one now with Edge as the world title. Uh,
I
don't
was
tell me who won. I forget. It was Edge, Rey Mysterio, Kane, The Big Show, and what was his name? He was with
Jeff
WWE for a couple. No, not Jeff Hardy. God, I
Wade
forget
Barrett,
his name.
not Wade
Yeah,
Barrett.
yeah,
Wade
way
Barrett.
better. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think there was one other person. I forget, but
There was okay. So it was, yeah, it was Edge, Wade Barrett. I think Kane, Big Show. Was it John Morrison
yeah, I think so. I
and
think so.
Sheamus? Maybe.
No, I gotta watch it. I'm only like 30
Yeah.
seconds into it.
Did you watch the SummerSlam 2003 one?
No, not yet.
Fucking Triple H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the last one.
That
There's
was
2
during
more.
the Raw time period. Yeah, that's
Raw.
yeah. So maybe the episode after next we'll talk about the Reign of Terror and all its
Is it because you're angry? Is it because you can't come down to the ring?
yeah.
The Rock
Tonight,
mocking.
in that very ring, I'm going to do absolutely nothing. He fucking
Like
kills
lay off the steroids.
yeah. Yeah, Triple H is just like that's the epitome of a pro wrestler. Uh,
All
Thank you for tuning
right.
into our episode about The Rock. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate everything. We will see you next time.
Peace.